there is this idea that the transition from foraging to farming, I mean, Jared Diamond called it humanity's biggest mistake.
Yeah.
And the, certainly these changes entailed some things that like were not positive net for humanity. And one of them is that it definitely increased the infectious disease burden. So simply as our population multiplies and as we're in contact with feces and as we're sharing the air through which respiratory pathogens can spread, diseases are constantly trying to take advantage of this. That's just how nature works. Energy is scarce. Everybody's trying to steal it from everybody else, including microbial parasites. And so the disease burden of humans over time definitely increases. And the burden of infectious disease on humans goes up over time. So very broadly across these thousands and thousands of years, the diseases that are suffered by, say, people by the time of the Roman Empire are absolutely much worse than what had been, the case in Stone Age times.
James Scott has an interesting theory in Against the Grain.
Yeah.
I don't know if it originates with him, but he argues that one of the reasons that the early agriculturalists were so successful, and David Reich, by the way, if you've seen the stuff about like the Yamnaya 4,500 years ago conquer all of Eurasia, but before them, the Anatolian, the initial farmers, like they're the ones who like displaced the initial hunter-gatherers across Europe and Asia. Anyway, so he argues that initial wave was so successful because of these first, I guess, diseases that the farmers were had created the conditions to engender, and basically the relationship these farmers had with respect to the foragers that they were taking over from was similar to the relationship the Europeans had to the Native Americans, where inadvertently the disease is just like a significant player in why you were able to dominate them. I don't know how plausible you find that.
I mean, I would first say, like, it's important. I think you were starting to get at this, that there's never like a generation of humans that has the opportunity to make this choice once and for all. Like, should we stay like hunting, mammoths, or should we become sedentary farmers with like basically torturous dentistry,
right,
and die by diarrhea? Like, this happens over thousands of years through an evolutionary process where nobody can. It's a story of unintended consequences, right? I mean, the mammoth are gone partly because we killed them all. And so people start, like, the first livestock that are domesticated are goats. And nobody says like, hey, let's become goat farmers. The goats are wild. They're ibexes and people are hungry. And so they start managing them to only kill the males to make sure that they can reproduce. And they start pinning them and they start killing the wolves who are trying to attack them. And over very, very, very long periods of time, this becomes this tight mutualistic relationship where all of a sudden we're goat farmers, but no generation makes that whole decision for anybody. So that's part of it, is that it's unintended consequences that are made in very, very incremental steps. And then two is, like, I definitely agree that there's some kind of like cultural selection here where the farming groups are simply so much more adapted to extract the energy efficiently from the environment, right? It's all about energy. You want to multiply, you want to grow, you want to survive. It's all about energy. And so the foragers require huge landscapes to extract enough energy to feed themselves and grow and reproduce. Whereas farmers per unit of land can extract such higher rates of energy that then can be, through photosynthesis is captured and turned into edible sugars that we can metabolize. And so those populations are just growing faster, that they, quote unquote, outcompete the hunter-gatherer populations, say, of Europe, that are largely but not completely displaced. Now, on top of that, so just like the energy story alone is a big piece of it, but then on top of that, you probably do have some kind of population difference in the exposure and possibly even immunity to infectious diseases. So I definitely think that early farmers, the first farming societies that are starting to live sedentary lifestyles where you have aggregations, these are not cities. These are villages.
Yeah.
But still, that's more than like a hunter-gatherer band. And your childhood is then going to be constant exposure to a series of pathogens. Those kinds of populations, when they're then migrating into Europe, are probably carrying these pathogens with them that may have had a kind of further effect that, on top of just being able to extract more energy and multiply faster, drives up the mortality of the existing populations.
If you enjoyed this episode, you can watch the full episode here and subscribe to see more clips.